Back in the time of Darwin, Darwin actually proposed this idea that people who were closer to the equator had darker skin, and people farther away from the equator had lighter skin and thus more evolved. And if you look at people, say, in the middle part of Africa, they're quite dark. You see some of the descendants of Cush were there, some of the descendants of Put were there. These are some of Noah's grandsons, by the way, and they happen to have the genes to be darker skinned. But then you go up to the Mediterranean, you see people with a little bit lighter features. And then you go farther, all the way up to Scandinavia, you see people who are, really blonde haired, very fair skinned. And so Darwin actually taught this. Well, if you're closer to the equator, you have evolved certain traits to help deal with the sunlight a little bit better and things like that. So they would argue that essentially people from the farther north, they couldn't really survive down in, say, central part of Africa and vice versa, these sort of things. But there's some misconceptions behind this, because let's just move over in latitude. Let's go over and take a look at, say, areas closer to China and Australia over there. Do you realize that some of the people right near the equator, near, say Malaysia, on the Malay Peninsula, there are people in Malaysia who are very light skinned, by the way, and they're close to the equator. You go down to Tasmania, there were people in Tasmania that were some of the darkest people the world has ever seen. And then you go even farther, you go up to, say, Alaska, where you see the Aleuts and you see some of the Eskimo peoples, and these people are kind of more middle brown. So it's exactly opposite when you move over. So really what we need to do is we need to step back. Yeah, the environment plays an effect on people to a certain degree, but people are unique compared to animals. We defy things like natural selection. We defy the way the environment acts on us. For example, we go to someplace cold, we build a house, we put clothes on, we build a fire so we can survive in those sort of things. We go down to Africa, it's not a big problem to be down there by the equator, and, we shade ourselves or put sunblock on, invent air conditioning, a great invention, by the way. But, a lot of these things, we have to watch for the evolutionary connotations behind them. Really what it is people go to different parts of the world, they took a particular gene pool with them, and that's what's expressed in the descendants, whether it's darker skin or lighter skin in some of these different areas. So it's good to clarify on some of those misconceptions.